Well, alright, welcome back to another episode of This Old Car. I was looking on my YouTube channel and knows it's been a while since I've uploaded a video on this project, so I figured I'd better cut this together and get it uploaded. Even though I don't know that I have a whole lot of stuff to show you, it's kind of just been tedious work on more body work, cutting out little pieces of rust, little holes, and welding and patch panels. Although we did do a little bit of work on the front suspension, the front end, and the motor, the heads. We pulled the heads out, and I began the process of looking at how to repair the heads. Alright, so I decided to switch gears and pull out the engine for this 36. This is a 400 Chevy small block. It's the engine that we ran in last time it was on the road. So we decided to stay with it instead of switching over to a Ford. And so we're going to rebuild it, of course. What I'm working on right now is the heads. I'm checking the valve guide clearance, because it seems to be leaking a little bit oil down the valve stems. So they're probably worn out a little bit. And I'm not sure that the valve stem seals are very good. Probably need to be replaced at the very least. So what we're doing now is we're hooking up a dial indicator to the valves here. We're going to wiggle them and see how much play we have. So we just clamped the dial indicator to the top of the head here, and what you do is you put it on the rim of the valve. It comes out about ½ inch or so. And then you zero out your dial. And once you're on zero, you wiggle it back and forth and see how much play you have. So it seems like I have about 10 thousandths, which is borderline too much. 3 thousandths is factory, and I think between 3 and 10 you're okay, but anything over 10 is pretty worn. All right, we working on this little patch right here. I tacked in the rim of the lip of the wheelhouse here, and then I created another patch for here. And we're gonna line it up and start tacking it in as soon as I can get it straight. Don't pinch your fingers. Okay. Good. this down. All we're trying to do is keep that, put maybe a little bit of pressure on that bar. Oh, no, I lost it. All right, try it again. Took the clamps off of it and lost our pressure, didn't we? All right, try it again.
How far are we going?
All right, we use the hand shear here to trim this up a bit. Now I've got my bottom edge. As you saw, we used this brake, which normally bends a 90-degree angle. If you use a piece of round bar at the edge of this brake, you can come up with curves, and you can pick any size round bar you want for your project. So now we're going to trim off the bottom edge of this fender and weld this on. Alright, so what we're working on here is this lower edge of the front fender. When I ground all the Bondo off, I discovered this lower edge was really in terrible shape. What they had done is it had been hit here apparently and had a bunch of cracks and cuts in that lower edge, and they welded them shut, sort of, and then bondoed about a 1/4 inch over it. And so it just wasn't good enough to leave. So what we did was we cut it out. Technically, I created the panel first before I cut it out. As you saw, I created a new lower edge on the brake, the handbrake over there, and then cut out this junky one. And now I'm fitting the new one on with some of these sheet metal clips. Did a little bit of body work on this to straighten it up, and we're going to start tack welding this in. You know, it's probably not going to be perfect. It's going to be a little bit of body filler when we're done, but it's going to be a lot better than it was. So that's what we're working on now. What these sheet metal clips do is they reach through the seam, and you put a post underneath them, and it creates a gap with this piece of metal in between here, but it also straightens up the two edges. It's kind of nice. You can only use it on certain types of butt welds where you have some room. If you're getting on curves and stuff, it doesn't work so well, but it's working fine for what I need it for. You can see here that this patch is looking pretty good. It's about 90% finished. I'll have a little bit more hammer and dolly work to do on it, and then a little bit of body work, but it's very close. You can run your hand over here and barely feel any imperfections. And the same with this piece up here that we put in. It needs a little bit more work because of the MIG welding. This is a little bit distorted, a little wavy through here. I've done some hammer and dolly work on it. I'm gonna do some more, bust out the heat, knock it back into place, but it's gonna require some filler. I can't get it perfect. I don't have that skill, I suppose, but it's very close. Way better than it was initially. pushing this rubber, because you're not hitting the edge, I don't know if there is it. It's just pushing the rubber off the bottom. Whoa.
Something happened.
Look at that. That's crazy.
We didn't break.
No?
Look at that. I wonder if it'll help to oil it or something.
Maybe.
Throw some breaker free in there.
Alright, we're putting in bushings for the upper control arms here. To do that, you have to kind of clean out the hole this goes into, get rid of any debris and grit, paint, and then we'll press them in. For this side, I got a piece of all thread with a couple of cups or pipe ends and caps. We're just going to tighten this down, and it's going to pull that right into the A-arm. For the other side, we'll have to do a little bit different because we have to capture this in there. So we'll have to devise something else. There you go. Got the first bushing in. It gets sucked down until it hits this collar right here, which is about less than 1/4 of an inch off the floor. Alright, there we go. We got the 2 bushings in. So let's put this on. It goes like this. Alright, so I'm working at putting together the front suspension here. We've cleaned it all up, replaced all the bushings, rubber parts. And we've been in a holding pattern because I couldn't find the rubber insulator grommets that sit on top of the springs. They're in here somewhere. When I took it apart 5 years ago, I stashed them somewhere. I couldn't find them, so I had to order a new set. They just showed up tonight, so I can continue with putting together the front suspension. That's what I'm working on. I went ahead and used some spring compressors. It made the job a little easier. And they just sit like that on top of the spring. All right, well, there you have it, another episode in the books. The next episode next month, you'll probably see this car put back together. My plan is to assemble the engine, put the engine transmission drive line back in the car, hook up all the wiring, put all the sheet metal back on. I want to make sure that everything is fitting, that I don't have to do any other major corrections before we start painting. But I want to put everything back together, get it running, and see if we have any major issues before we spray it with paint. So by the next episode, you'll probably see this thing back together and possibly running. We'll see. Anyway, there you have it. We'll catch you next time. Thanks. Bye.